All right, so I guess I'm chairing today. I'll call the Recreation Trails Committee meeting to order. Roll call. We'll just do who's not here. We know John's not here. John's absent. Tim absent. Matt's a little bit late. I am.
We elected you secretary for today.
Yeah, all right. So I could be 2 minutes late. That's totally fair. Jonathan Elliott's not in. And Patrick is out, right? Probably see since he's a slow team. Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Any announcements? Anything new in the trails world? Okay. Any comments, questions from community audience, which figure that out. Approval of minutes from our last meeting.
I have no changes to add.
Okay. All right, we're good at that. Okay, review and approval of the agenda. So we have 4 items to cover today. The first one is we'll introduce Lauren Bell, and we'll introduce us to him in a second. Executive Director of Enchanted Circle Trails Association. And we've talked about how ECTA might support our village trails and activities. Second is discussion on the status and narrative of the Frank Young Extension Trails grant, Trails Plus grant. So we can submit that by December 30th. Third topic is review our issues, challenges and opportunities that we crafted last time and see if we can massage that and review that and get that agreed upon so we can move forward with that. Fourth item is wrap up, looking over our tasks and actions, establish agenda items for the next meeting and establish the next meeting and date and time. Anyone have an issue with that agenda today? Does that all work for everyone? Mm-hmm. Okay. Then is approved. So let's introduce ourselves to Lauren, our first person. We'll start with Jeff.
I'm on city council. I'm the liaison for the Recreation Trails Committee.
Attila Balati, the co-chair of Recreation Trails Committee.
And I'm Jackie Farmer, executive director for AFPO.
Lonnie Natter, just a local trails guy. Not just.
Concerned citizen.
I'm Matt Billingsley, co-chair.
Okay. And on the screen, we've got Chris.
Yep. Chris Sorensen, just in Houston for a bit as we are moving, but and then back in Angel Fire shortly.
President of Moreno
Oh
Valley.
yeah, no, so I'm currently the president of the Moreno Valley Truckers Group. Thank you.
And Shay.
Hello, I'm Shay Tiblish, and I'm Parks and Recreation Manager for the Village of Angel Fire.
Great. Okay. So a quick background history, the Enchanted Circle Trails Plan, and Lauren can catch us on this, but the Enchanted Circle Trails Plan adopted in 2017, 2018, resolution passed to accept that document by this village council or a village council here, but at that same time. And one of the ideas in that plan was to create a regional trails association that would have more impact than all the little individual trail clubs that flounder and falter and have some success. This was partly because Taos had passed about 3 or 4 trails plans over 20 years and bike plans, and nothing ever got implemented. So we recognized that we needed some organization regionally that could help implement trails, on the ground trails projects, or help strengthen volunteer efforts and those sort of things. I believe ECTA has been surviving on small contracts through BLM and Forest Service for the most part. That's how they've been able to keep Lauren on board to coordinate some of these activities. But one of the initial ideas was how could all the municipalities, the villages and towns in the Enchanted Circle also support ECTA financially, that they would turn around and support what we're doing in the village. So we came up with a brainstorm list. Lonnie coordinated that list, and 3 or 4 items surfaced to the top of that list that we thought might be good to have active support on, because Shay's a one-person operation. The rest of us are volunteering and really don't have a say on how final decisions are made. And I think the village could use additional professional support on some of these projects. So I think we identified, number one is the Frank Young extension, the Frank Young Trail, and extending that trail to the high school and to Allen Fields. So we're kind of moving forward on the first piece of that. We'll be covering that more and you'll get a feel for that. But that eventually, I can see roles for Rocky Mountain Youth Corps, coordinating that and supplies and helping people understand different construction techniques and so forth. The other ideas was maybe helping the resort and the village complete an adaptive trail assessments and what is adaptable and what could modified for adaptable use for the population here and the visitors that are veterans, and we're bringing in all kinds of events for healing events, and how if we could get them out on the trails, that'd even be better for that operation. The third thing was potentially helping us install or erect a kind of a regional trails map. And I believe you guys have kind of started on that idea in other places. So we now have the visitor center reestablished at Frontier Plaza. That kind of makes sense as a location, but thinking that through. And the fourth one would be maybe convening a trail summit for local community in Angel Fire. Help us talk about what our issues are, what our concerns are as we are developing this comprehensive plan, what people want to do. I think those 4 were the key 4 top things we thought were important for ECTA to potentially support.
Yeah.
So let's have an open conversation on those 4 things. Let's start with let's save the grant for last, because that's going to segue into that grant conversation right after that. So let's do adaptive trails first. We know this past summer, Go Unlimited, Global Opportunities Unlimited, Dustin Berg brought some of his friends and others up to do riding. First, they did the Greenbelt Trails, and they came back and rode the mountain. So these are folks who are
The
in
mountain is not exactly one of the things you think of as adaptive.
true, but yes, it is. Depends on the skill level of the folks. What we do know in the trails community is that folks who may be mobility impaired, throwing them onto a hand cycle or a recumbent and asking them to ride pavement is not a challenge. I mean, if they've been through all kinds of intense situations and battle what else and challenge, they want a challenge. It's our job, I think, in the trails world, trails managers world, is to let people know what opportunities exist, where the barriers are, if you can overcome those barriers, so people can for them decide on what is doable on the trail. So the failure in the green, blue, black diamond circle thing on skiing is that what's green here could be blue at Sipapu, or what's black here could be green at Taos.
Right.
So it's an irrelevant assessment based, because each condition is different. With trails, we want to get into more detail on what's the steepest grade on it, how long is that grade, what is the cross slope, if I'm rolling, will I keep getting rolled off the edge of the trail, are there steps or rocks or other vertical challenges, how tall are those vertical challenges, how many are there? So when that person goes to that trailhead, they can see, yeah, I can get to that viewpoint there, or I can get to the lake past the viewpoint, or I can get to here. So that's the kind of stuff that if we were to do adaptive opportunities, that's a direction we need to go. And the resort's got a big role in this, and maybe APCO actually more than the resort, because you guys are kind of the Greenbelt's kind of your purview as well, but together, how do we do that? And most of it doesn't need a lot of changes. There's not much on our Greenbelt that needs, I think, rebuilding. But I think the worst thing is the location of the benches, which are, you almost need climbing gear to get up to some of the picnic tables from the trail level. Because you can't access them. So let's talk about adaptive trail, what Active could potentially offer for adaptive trail assessments for us.
So just kind of, off a little bit of just what you said, one of the things through discussions and through communicating with other places that have done this kind of thing, absolutely, it's less about changing the trails to suit adaptive cycles, but providing people with enough information of the trailhead that they know what they're getting into. And there's, if you kind of imagine like the ingredients list on the back of a cereal box, you know, where you're looking for the sugar, you're looking for the protein content, like you kind of have that little grid that has a very standardized format. And so there is a group that is working on creating that standardized format that we're looking to adopt and trying to incorporate in our trail sign that basically has the things you talked about. The maximum outslope you're gonna run into, the steepest terrain you're gonna run into, the biggest obstacle, the narrowest width. And so that way people can come to the trail, look at it and be like, oh yeah, I can handle that with my gear, my rig and everything. Whereas somebody else might look at it and say, oh, my equipment can't handle that, or my skill set, that might be above. So it just, as opposed to saying, hey, this is a, an adaptable friendly trail, basically saying, here's what this trail provides. And then letting people have that choice. And so part of what the Enchanted Circle Trail Association is working on is a cohesive sign plan for the region. So that when somebody pulls in this area, if they're hitting a trail in Angel Fire, they know where to look on the sign and what they're gonna find. If they're in Taos, they're gonna see the exact same information for that trail. And so kind of reaching that standardization, I think is a big important part of, developing that cohesive sign language. How you get to that point, of course, is gonna require some trail assessment. So if the global opportunities are limited, we did some, initial run throughs just to see how things were working and what trails. To give you an example, the the Cougar Trail over off the south side of the Greenbelt Trails. Perfect. Like that proved to be kind of the ideal quote unquote adaptive trail. It's also a hell of a lot of fun for regular hikers and mountain bikers and things like that. So again, just kind of reshaking that knowledge of like, we don't need to be making a whole lot of changes to trails, but just recognizing how trails are built, turn radiuses, things like that, and how that fits in. And so I think the next step would be to actually do comprehensive surveys of those trails where, there are $20,000 pieces of equipment that you can get. They're like basically on strollers that you walk through and they're measuring every single angle and stuff like that. I don't know that we necessarily need to be that particular, although that would be the gold standard for these trails. And ACT has kind of been toying whether that'd be worth that investment or not on a regional level. The other thing is basically somebody walking through the trail with a GPS and a tape measure or a ruler and kind of being able to measure those gaps and just hitting the high points and the pinch points and stuff like that. So, that's definitely kind of the two different extremes that you can look at based on that. And then I guess even the lowest level would be after going limited rides through and they look at it, they could just basically give it something we kind of joked about, but at the same time might be helpful. It's just like, hey, this is the go unlimited seal of approval for adaptive for, this kind of bike or this kind of stuff. So, there's different ways that could go, but that's definitely something we'd like to see happen at just a regional level as, not just here in this area.
Are there funds available from any of the, like Go Unlimited or any of the organizations that support them that would be able, because that sounds like, getting that equipment to measure it accurately, it sounds like it would be an incredible opportunity for that particular population.
haven't looked into specifically what funds we could look at, but I mean, everything from the Trails Plus state grant to, I know there are grants that are specifically for adaptive, usages. I would feel fairly confident that if we wanted to pursue that, there would be, there would be some opportunities for that funding, in order to make that happen. And then, budgeting for somebody to actually, walk the trails and do the surveys. Like if we decide we want to, as a region, then we could put the time and energy into making that happen. And I think that'd be a valuable thing to do.
So you're talking about beneficial designs, ETAP?
Yes, yeah.
Does that require any specific training, or can anybody just say, here,
It's
hit
an
the on
intense,
button and go?
it's an intense training.
Yeah,
Okay.
the equipment is a little finicky. I will say I didn't necessarily, I think it could be made, and I think they are making improvements since I was last, had a demonstration of that. But yeah, it's a fairly complex database where you are still entering in information. I mean, I would love, at some point, we're not there yet, but some trail designers are playing around with, just, you can fly a drone along the trail, get the LiDAR, and then use AI to just categorize off. We're not there yet, but, that might be.
So I was just wondering whether some of the volunteer organizations will be able to assist with that, but it sounds like maybe the professionals to do it.
I think you could train up a volunteer who's passionate about it to be able to do an accurate, assessment of using the equipment. Yeah, it's from what I've seen. Have you used one?
I've seen demonstrations by Pedal Access, but I haven't done it, yeah. And I think for the people I know, who've used it, the feeling is for adaptive, it's probably not as necessary as it is for ADA accessibility.
Right.
The heat was designed for ADA more than it was for adaptive, because it came out before adaptive was a thing. So pedal access is a mobility impaired, trail designer planner, so he developed the system.
Yeah, I think probably for our purposes, that middle of the road where somebody who knows what they're looking for is out there with a yardstick and a clinometer and just measuring grades and outslope and can get good accurate representations of that. And, it's something that a couple of the people that we work with who are trail builders and designers fairly adept at being able to look and they just walk in area and be like, no, this is all within 3 to 5% outslope, we're good there. And then, okay, well, this is looking steeper, let's go ahead and measure this part and then get a sense of, all right, we have 100 feet, that's 6% outslope, and do we need to fix that, or do we just need to, give that on the trailhead information? But yeah, and that's some of the things we did find on some of the greenbelt trails, is that some of the steeper runs are fairly narrow. We did have some trouble getting the bikes through there, and so that is something that identifying those areas could also be, hey, putting a crew of volunteers on this for a day to just pull that back slope back a little bit and bench it out a little bit more, and then boom, we got it, and and now this whole trail is adaptable. So areas where there's short segments that we could make minor changes to things could be super beneficial. And so we have some of that data. We didn't do as kind of fine-grained assessment as that, but we did kind of pick out some of these trails. We're like, okay, this one almost there, just needs a little bit of help in this one section, and started to identify some of that stuff.
So who's trying to standardize the serial walks?
So beneficial designs.
Beneficial designs is
Yep.
doing that? Okay.
Yeah, is kind of leading that charge from my understanding, and American Trails is supporting that, and kind of the other end of that spectrum, just I wanted to mention, the blue, black, green, gross in the broad sense, assessment of trails. INBA has a standard for that, for biking trails, which is, blues don't have more than a certain height of step down or step up on the trails, greens have less and things like that. So INBA does have some specific standards that I'd love to see different trail systems and bike areas maintained, because I think that is a good initial blush for any trail of like, oh, this is a green, that means it's going to hit this minimum standard. And then if I need to know more because of my particular abilities and needs, then I can look at that ingredients list and see how things are. So, yeah.
I think for us, families come here, mom or dad, or one of the two, or maybe both, bombing down the mountain. And then the other, if there's other caregivers with the family that need to go for a ride with their kids or whatever else, or want to do a green belt trail, or want to do a cross country ride, I think that's what we're kind of pushing for, is what, make sure everyone has a good opportunity in town. We're not just gonna focus on the resort side of things, or the downhill, the bike park per se. So, if we wanted to pursue the middle of the ground thing and using the nutrition box kind of format, sounds like, you guys could potentially be a coordinator for that. Convene people in this community that might want to be assessors. Colfax County assessors.
Do you have any kind of particular training, and not the trail building, but the trail measuring? I mean, any way that you could help us to understand how to do that?
Yeah, we could definitely have to formalize that and create a standard. We've been working with Global Opportunities to kind of assess, what that information is that we need. So we don't have that yet set up, but we are in the process of kind of developing.
And maybe even combine the two, if there's a 50-foot section that if improved could, meet these qualifications, spend a little bit of time addressing that 50-foot section and then measure all the rest of it to make sure we're all where we want to be.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe our ask for, let's say, I get this right, summarize it right, ask for us from, for ECTA is to, use Angel Fire as a demonstration case study to provide training for locals to help do how to do it, assess the trails.
Even the kids,
Yeah, the students could do that too.
I mean, they have those fancy iWatches, I think you'd probably do grade changes with their iWatch.
Yeah, right.
And distance, some of that stuff.
Mhm. So I think that could be one of those tasks, and what would it take? What's the financial requirement for you guys to coordinate that kind of a activity for us on the adaptive side of things? I know last summer, Patrick was blown away at what they could do on some of the bike park trails, and they were gonna mark the bike park trails that with an adaptive symbol or something. I don't know if that happened or not, but I think they'd be interested in that. So how do you think Apple would feel about
I think
adapt on the greenbelt stuff?
they'd be on board, I'm sure.
Okay.
It's just bringing it to the board,
Okay,
and then obviously they work with the resort to.
okay. So we have to do a good presentation to your board.
No, the resort owns all of those greenbelt trails. Apple does not. But what
Right.
input does Apple have into managing those trails?
It's like, from my understanding, I mean, they both have, I don't know that it's quite 50-50, but AFO helps, fund some of those in keeping those.
Any recreational activities that go on.
But
Yeah.
it's more along the lines of the resort says, we're doing these trails, can you help support us?
Pretty much,
with
yeah.
Apple monies.
Pretty
So
much,
it's
yeah.
not really anything that you have input into other than here's where we're gonna put the Apple money.
Correct.
Well, AFO also
Yeah.
leads, with what, they are.
Like
would like
voices,
for a
yeah.
year. Each year they get with the resort and determine what,
I mean, if there's things that they're hearing from the community and members and stuff that are wanted,
This bridge is rotting out, can you fix it?
yeah. And so then that would be presented to both the resort and APCO and.
yeah. And one of the things I think with the resort would be, with these adaptive trails for the lifts would be access to the top through Happy Way, a little parking area. Maybe, because I don't know, they're not gonna ride up that mountain, right?
Well, no, they right up the lift.
Oh, they
Yeah, they
can,
put the tracks on.
oh, they'll go on the lift.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful.
It's amazing what they can do.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, they have to stop the lift and.
Yeah, that's okay. So there's two parts here, that the first part maybe is,
identifying which trails are most suitable.
Well, no, before that, I think we need to say, what is an adaptive assessment and why do we want to do it? Having some sort of a little fact sheet?
I would love for Angel Fire to be the center of adaptive trails in this region.
I agree.
It's suited well for.
I think it is, and I think we need to somehow make that a big deal in the community and then figure out how to advertise that once we started doing it.
Right, so I think having this adaptive assessment fact sheet says, well, here's why we want to do this. Here's the benefits to it. I mean, the whole VA in Albuquerque can bring, they've got Charlie Irwin at Tula Drive. The VA buys dozens of recumbents and trikes from him every year for their folks. So having events up here and other places would be fantastic, and it builds on what the Veterans Healing Group does, and I mean, it's just kind of a perfect storm of opportunities for that. And then with Greg Ralph trying to do the heads and beds things, and so there's cool things. So we kind of need, I think, a fact sheet of why we want to do adaptive assessments, and then what that would look like. And then the third part would be, here's how ACTA could help, and here's how much cash you need to put out for us to really get involved. That sound right? Chris, Shay, any comments from the gallery?
Well, I do think that I could agree with Lonnie that why not shoot for the bleachers, so to speak. So yeah, let's do it.
I agree also. I think, what you're asking, Attila, is that, for the information that we need, I think is a good way to start.
And then we can go to lodger's tax.
A lot of that could pay for Enchanted Circle to do that.
Right.
Yes.
Between sales tax and APO assistance, I think there are some pots of money that can help to support this.
How restrictive is the lodger's tax for this area?
Depends on who wants to read the statute.
Heads and beds,
To be
That is
fair.
true.
You're exactly, I mean, if we propose it as a, this will put heads in beds,
Yeah.
then the lodger's tax will support it.
So I know in Taos, it's advertising only is what they're
Well,
reading it to.
there's two parts to it. There's a certain amount of money that can only be used for advertising. But then there's a percentage that.
Certain percentage that can only be used, but then there's other ways it can be used as long as you meet that advertising percentage.
Okay, great. That topic, the next topic is kind of a regional trails map on a stick.
Yeah,
Tell us about what you're doing there and how that we can get one here maybe.
so a couple of things and, actually just backing up a little bit, I think some of you, we've chatted a little bit, some of you may not be as familiar with what ECTA has been doing at the regional level. And that's, as Attila mentioned, initially it was conceptualized as, it would be great to have this program funded over the council or through the Council of Governments as a region-wide initiative to work on trails, maintenance, construction, signage, promotion, all the things that will help build the Enchanted Circle region brand as a trails forward community to both bring people here and provide opportunities for the people who live in our communities to get out, enjoy the benefits the trails provide. So some of the things that we do on that regional level is we run the Trails Plus program that last year put over 1,500 hours, volunteer hours into trails. We had, I think, 35 different events last year to help just maintain trails throughout the region. And that's up in Red River, in Taos, up on Paul Machado, Moreno Valley Trekkers is a big, strong partner in that. And so that just helps make sure that we got well-maintained trails for everybody. That's actually becoming even more important next year. As you may have heard, the Forest Service has no funding for seasonal employees next year. Just door shut. So there's going to be
We
no.
have funding for permanent.
They barely have funding for permanent employees.
That's likely to be the case for 4 years.
Yeah, so there is, not only is there, yeah, they're not even gonna try to hire any seasonal trail employees, so it really is incumbent upon volunteers, and so we are ramping up that, adopt a trail program even more next year, and so that's, hopefully we can fill in that void and fill in that gap. Other things, like I said, developing a regional sign language for our trail signs and trail plans, so as I mentioned before, people can, hit different areas and know what they're looking at and know what they're getting themselves into. And then another big part is like finding funding for these regional projects and programs. So just to give you an idea, 2 of our big flagship programs that we're working on, or project working on, is a trail between Cuesta and Red River. That's working with the Forest Service, Cuesta, Red River, Taos County, Department of Transportation. This is a 14-mile ADA accessible trail as much as possible, paralleling the highway. On the south side, we're currently in the NEPA process, the environmental clearance process, and working with an engineer to do the engineering. That is ECTA brought in the money through federal grants and state capital outlay with the Red River and additional funds. Right now we're $500,000 into that project, and ECTA's brought that money to the communities to help make that project happen. We're also working on a big paved bike path between K-Taos, the big 4-way intersection on US 64 north of Taos, to Arroyo Seco. That's going to be removed from the highway. That's another, I don't know what that project's going to cost, but we're in the engineering phase right now, working with engineers to do that. So these are some of the bigger level projects that we're working on. So, and where it helps by having the regional commitment is that instead of piecemealing, we're just gonna work with this entity on this project, we're just gonna work with that entity on that project. It's able to basically pool our resources to, raise all ships with that rising tide. I think, calculate up, all told, ECTA in the last 5 years has brought in about $1.2 million worth of investment in trail infrastructure into the Enchanted Circle region. So one of those projects we did was the regional trail kiosks. And that was a conceptual idea that if you go to Cuesta, you'll see a kiosk that has a trail map of the region. And then highlighted on that trail map is 3 trails near where you're standing. So they're generalized, but also personalized to that region. And so with that, we got a grant to do that in conjunction with Rocky Mountain Youth Corps, designed the trail maps, and we've installed 5 of those kiosks, one at Taos County's, the Taos County Courthouse, one at Cuesta, at the Visitor Center in Cuesta, one at Red River, at the Visitor Center in Red River, one at Eagle Rock Lake in Cuesta, and Taos Ski Valley up at the Williams Lake Trailhead. And so
Plans to put one in Angel Fire anymore?
So at the time that we were doing this, the administration of Angel Fire is inclined to participate in that program. So we did not design or include, so that program or that project is finished. Those signs have been installed, but we do have those base maps. We do have those, that initial plans. And so we could put a similar one in Angel Fire fairly easily, but it would, be starting not from completely from scratch, but we'd have to kind of figure out what those costs were. But I guess the point I want to make is at the time, those communities that were engaged, because we haven't been able to get a unified contract with the Council of Governments, so ECTA has been contracted with each individual municipality. Those municipalities that were contracted, ECTA just underwrote the additional costs that the grant didn't cover for those kiosks. So they got those kiosks for free. The municipalities that weren't engaged under a contract, I think it was $2,000 that ECTA asked to help support the development of those kiosks. At this point, it would probably be more than that because we would have to, because we don't have anything covering the construction costs and everything. So I would imagine we'd be looking probably around $4,000 to, if we were to build that kiosk structure in-house, buying local materials. If you want to upgrade or change the kiosk style, just looking at base prices for a trailhead kiosk is about $5,000 a piece. to buy, a kit from a company. So, that's kind of the cost you're looking at, depending on the direction you want to go, is probably around 4,000 to 6,000 to 8,000, depending on.
I know the resort has plans to work on the kiosks here, and I don't know that there's some way that we could coordinate. I wish Patrick were here to answer that, to coordinate their kiosk with the ECTA kiosks to somehow incorporate the information that ECTA has for the region. And obviously, those kiosks are already done in other areas. We're not gonna be able to include Angel Fire information on those kiosks, which is already done, but in future iterations, it might be nice to be able to.
So on those kiosks, we do have the base Angel Fire trails, the existing trails, and that's the whole point, is that regardless, people can see, I'm staying in Village of Taos Ski Valley, but, oh, look, there's a lot of trails around Angel Fire. Maybe we'll go there tomorrow to, so that was kind of the concept behind it, is to let people know that you're not an island, there's some great opportunities around here. What would be required on the design side is choosing, the 3 trails, in Angel Fire that we want to highlight. And so those are, on the side, and have little descriptions and a write-up. I can send you an example of what the kiosks look like for the other areas. So, that requires some time and some GIS work and doing that. The printing of the signs themselves, I think they're running about $800 per panel at this point. They're 4x4 foot by 4 foot panels.
I think the resort already has some ideas of what they want on that kiosk. So it would include more than just the 3 trails. But if there was a way that we could incorporate also that regional map that you already have.
So one of the things we talked about at the Village of Taos Ski Valley was we'd have the regional standardized ECTA sign here on this 4x4 panel, and then on this 4x4 panel could be a hyper localized trail map and information there. So, yeah.
And there's room for logos.
Yeah, so that's,
So
we
if
could.
someone were to, I could see Visit Age of Fire.
Right.
Fit the bill for the logo, things like that.
So that was part of.
All you have to do is advertise an Angel Fire logo on there, and then it's all, I mean, it qualifies for larger stacks.
So an interesting conversation, there's 2 conversations. One is, what's standardized on the resort kiosks, which goes back to, they could have the nutrition label information on them. So, and then also maybe the INBA green, blue, black, depending on, what directions we're gonna go.
Well, which we've already done, but they're not by INBA standards necessarily.
Right. So we have that piece of the thing, so, and then we have this other sign that is really focusing on the Enchanted Circle with a few splashy highlights of a local opportunity. So it sounds to me like you need both panels. Sounds like this one is, if you stopped at the Visit Angel Fire, and then Greg Ralph sent you, go look at our billboard out there, that's got the 3 best trails here, and over here in Red River, there's a good one. So, or it's probably Trini doing that now. She would send you out to the billboard and look at what's out there. So if you're coming in here for the first time and see, we are a part of a bigger collaborative. And I think you need those kiosks at each one of the resort trailheads, the deer and the Bambi and those things, because that's where the detailed information is. We wouldn't want much detail in this big one.
Yeah, I think these are 2 separate purposes, I guess you would say, for each of these kiosks.
And the kiosks themselves are, I guess, lower maintenance than the ones we have. Are they like powder coated metal?
So the ones that we constructed, and this was the folks who were involved, the initial 5 communities decided they liked the traditional wood design with a corrugated steel roof or green roofs. Green roofs. I'm pulling up a picture of what they look like. That doesn't have to be standardized. I'm actually kind of partial to the weathered steel kiosk look that might be lower maintenance, might cost a little bit more. Look at getting a local manufacturer to build them. So some of those ideas, but so I think it's open for that as long as the information is getting out there, and I think we're achieving our objectives.
And another question I had, one of the things on the application for the grant was, does this have anything to do with the Rio Grande Trail project thing. Is that in the long, I mean, distant, 50 years in the future, whatever? Is there a plan to incorporate all these trails? Does the Quested or Red River Trail have future plans to connect to Eagle Nest or to Angel? Is there a complete circle, a trail
That's,
in the future plans? Could we say yes to that? Eventually, is this going to connect to the Rio Grande Trail system?
I mean, we could make a pretty strong case that it actually would connect into the Rio Grande Trail system right now through existing trails, South Boundary Trail, some of the trails on BLM land on that side. So yes, I mean, to your question, I would love to see a parallel trail to the Enchanted Circle Highway, but that's probably a 50 to 100-year plan.
Well, so it's not in the future plans as of yet. It's maybe in somebody's head, but it's not in anybody's long-term plans yet.
Yeah, I think that infrastructure is gonna be, that's not prioritized in the Enchanted Circle Trails plan, but that's looking at more kind of distinct connections between communities that maybe could grow into that ultimate vision, but, yeah, it's, the
The
thing we want.
2006 Trails plan that Angel Fire came up with did go all the way to Eagle Nest, if you remember.
Yeah.
So, there was that kind of connection, Envision and along
Right.
range.
Eagle Nest to Red River, and that would be the connecting piece. But actually, going the other direction, like you mentioned with South Boundary Trail, it actually does already go there.
Well, and what is the Enchanted, what is that cross-country ski area? That kind of ducks down. There's some ways, I guess, you can see.
And the Enchanted Circle Trails plan does try to look at where can we connect these trails in to make more of a interlinked system throughout the region. And so that's where some of the priorities that are identified in the Enchanted Circle Trails plan.
A cross-country ski area up there. Yeah.
Where is that?
At the top of Bobcat Pass, Enchanted Circle. Enchanted Circle, no, Enchanted.
Forest.
Forest, yeah. Yeah.
The Goins family runs that.
Is
Okay.
that private?
Yes, but on forest land. They have yurts you can rent, you can actually go to snowshoe, but yeah, you can ski in there you can ski with a sled and all your gear on the sled and go to the yurt for a couple nights.
Yeah.
Very nice setup.
They used to have those kind of Iditarod races.
Yeah. Okay, we're off topic.
You're off, I'll bring it back on. So that's the, the kiosk, and then this is the main regional map, and then the three highlighted trails, and then just additional information, and so logo rent. So this was a 4x8 foot installment, but like I said, this is the main thing, and this stuff could be great discussed or.
Yeah, okay, good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's one just like that.
Yep, so that's right there by the river center.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Is it? We'll get a copy of that and share the resource, so that's an action item that we'll send that example to us and we'll
Said that.
share it out with the notes. Put a hard copy in the notes, we'll just attach that picture to our notes. Mr. Acting Secretary.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I can't walk in, you go. Only to take notes.
Okay, so that's another one, we'll add that to, the cost, what would it take to get that done for the village, and of course, it would require coordination with the resort, but that's good stuff. We've been talking about new signage, and what goes on new signage, so this is kind of timely. So the third topic, and then we're gonna go to the grant next, the third topic is really so as Chris just alluded to, there is a 2006 Angel Trails plan. Many of the goals are still very relevant and many of the issues are still very relevant. And so as we're right now in the process of, developing a comprehensive plan for the village.
Mhm.
And, we do anticipate and expect, and we'll have goals, issues, challenges related to our members in that comp plan. But the comp plan committee is also a very small committee, limited resources. And so far, there has not been a great deal, in my opinion, of interest in really engaging community conversation around any of the topics in the comp plan, whether it's whatever the topic is. However, we do have about 10 working committees in this village on these different topics, which you each have 6 or 8 members who are totally committed to resolving wildfire issues or, you know, wastewater issues, whatever it is. So I think from perspective of having focus groups, we're way ahead of a lot of other towns. But on the trails front, in 2018, the Trails Committee created a priority list of trails. And that hasn't really been vetted since 2018. And nor do we know what the major topics are from community members, unless we're talking to a trackers, but we don't know what the weekend guests are looking for. We don't really know some of that information. So I'm of the mind that, maybe this is me talking, but I hope there's some consensus around this, that we do need to find a way to engage people about trails and recreation. And we keep hearing the same topics, a way to connect to the forest, way to connect Elliott Barber Trail. These things keep coming up over and over again. We talk to the resort and they'll throw out the example of other resort towns where there's a great deal of connectivity in the resort town, in addition to the bike park stuff. And that's what we're still missing in here. For example, the RV park out by 64 there's no way to get into town on a pathway from the RV park unless you're on the highway. So there's a lot of stuff that we could still accomplish and get some community momentum behind these things. So I know ECTA has the potential to maybe facilitate a community conversation around some of these topics and have a day-long or half-day workshop or something around these topics. So that was something I would like to see. A couple things happen here is in June, there is Members Weekend, where pretty much a lot of people show up and hear what the resort's doing. You know, we'll get an update on the chairlift they've been proposing for 20 years or whatever it is. We'll get an update on all the projects the resort's doing. We'll get an update from the APO Amenities Committee. They're the ones that are charged with determining how our membership fees go to pickleball versus another amenity that is important to the community. So maybe something around those times. I think we'd be in a place by then to highlight, here's what we think we know what the issues are. Here's what we think the opportunities are. For example, if that is an opportunity, here's the 4 or 5 key goals we want to pursue. And maybe take that information that we've already combined from this committee, present it back to the group to make sure that we're kind of ground truthing what we think we're hearing. So I'm wondering if you guys think that would be a logical approach to have some sort of a half-day trails related and recreation related workshop sometime. Some that ECTA could facilitate as a neutral facilitator.
I think it would be great, especially talking about, you know, the opportunities we can have with you as resources. Because the grants and the money you bring in for, you know, because it's like Dylan said, we're all just volunteers in this. And fortunately, we have some really great, you know, backgrounds on this committee. Otherwise, I think we probably wouldn't be where we're at. But, you know, be able to have, you know, because y'all help with grants too, right? That's, I mean, what, so.
Yeah.
Great resource.
So the ulterior motive is how do we, with what you're proposing and what you come back to us, how do we pitch? How does this committee pitch to council and the village manager and the mayor that it is worth investing $12,000 into ECTA because here's our return on investment. If this happens, all these things can also happen. So I think that's kind of what we're eventually pushing for.
I like that idea. I think it is definitely would be great to revisit. Like you said, there's been a 2006 plan, the Angel Fire Trail Plan, 2018, and then the 2017 Enchanted Circle Trails Plan, there has been a lot of community voice. So I don't know that more than half a day would be warranted, but I think half a day to just be like, hey, here's what we've come up with in years past. Is this still relevant? And of these, what are the top three we want to start going after? And then maybe even the outcome of that being to develop an action plan for that. Because I know planning is important, but I think a lot of folks are like, man, if I sit through another planning session and nothing actually happens, then I'm gonna slit my throat. So, there's definitely that, I want to be sensitive to that, but I think if the goal of the outcome of this is like, hey, the town of Angel or the village of Angel Fire, the village or a town? Village. I thought that was right. The village of Angel Fire is ready to commit to doing one or two projects. Let's, of these trail plans, let's pick the priorities. Let's confirm that these are correct. Let's pick the priorities and identify the steps to make that happen. And yeah, I would be absolutely excited to help facilitate that and make that happen. So
Wonderful. Okay, excellent. Everyone sound good to everyone? I don't know if that weekend works because it's already jam-packed, but Chris.
Yeah, I was just going to make an observation. Obviously, the members' weekend is a great way to talk to members, and I think primarily, in my mind, that is our main audience. The issue with visitors is that there's no one central place for them. They're not going to be at the members' weekend. But the one thing I do think may be a place to get visitors' input is our visitor center. And I'm wondering if there's some way to capture, the visitors that come in and ask for, I don't know, a survey or whatever, a few questions that, might be able to do something. That's the only place I think you could ever really run into the visitors, unless you go to the bottom of the ski hill or the golf course or something like that. I don't know where else you're going to collect them all in one location, if that's important.
That the guests that I have had or just people that I've talked to who are visiting, one of their biggest questions is, how do I find information? The visitor center kind of disappeared for a while and people couldn't find the visitor center. They just wanted information. So I think that's a high priority for visitors, is get that information out, get the kiosks, get information in the visitor center, because the information we had in the past, not great information. I think just information is a high priority. We've got great trails already. We've got plans for some even better trails, but we don't have it very well advertised in signage and so on.
Yeah, so there's two sides. So the one is information that, so it goes back, what do visitors need? They need information on where to find stuff or what's out there, so that feeds in that. I've always had this idea for decades, and hasn't, I've pulled it off once, is to use placemats in a restaurant as like, here's Angel Fire Trails, it's a QR code, boom, then there's your map. So you can pay for placemats dirt cheap.
Yep.
And
looking into that.
bakery, cafe, or somewhere local that says, here's your outdoor opportunities in this town.
Yeah.
Now, Lodgers Tech will probably cover some of that cost too, but so the other part of those is do visitors need different kind of trails? Do they need more dog parks? Do they need more playground equipment? We're both recreation and trails. What do visitors look for to get in there? Because they all want to drive to Olympic Park or ride for the playground there. And they find the community center, and residents find the community center. So there's a couple different things. So you could also maybe do a quick survey, that QR code, trails and recreation, and do it the same way. So Chris, you're on some ideas of how we could do that. I know most comp plan consultants do outreach on their visitors in some sort of a survey methodology, and I think Red River is doing that now. The State Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan also did a whole lot of outdoor survey work for out-of-state residents, trying to find out what they're looking for coming into the state. So that data is out there as well that we can use. But okay, so half-day workshop. Finding ways to reach our community better is kind of the outcome of that, is to make sure we're on the same track. But I always, so you guys know my background was 32 years of planning meetings, so I don't find them ad nauseum because it's how I think. But a big part of that was, how do we engage the broader community in our work? It's not just the 10 people around the table that want to see the trail from the river to the brewery, but how does the whole community care about it? So my thinking evolves around, how do we engage community members in our decision making? We're the decision makers, but we need to make sure we're collecting info from our people to make those decisions.
Who's coming in, who's using the trails.
Yeah,
You know,
and how they're using them.
so,
Right.
because we have, you know, high school students that come up from the train up here. And there was over 150 kids this past summer. And if, you know, if they had a Frank Young trail from the softball field to start and stop, it would, you know, and better signage to cross the highway. That's another aspect of it.
Yeah, and there's even, I know Cuesta right now, we're talking with them, we're designing a trail plan for the Largo Canyon area outside of Cuesta, and one of the priorities they're looking at is building a trail that would be suitable for a high school cross-country mountain bike race, because they see that as a great opportunity for bringing people to the community for a weekend.
We have exactly the same idea
Yeah.
raised in this committee as well.
So yeah, thinking about where could that be, and could any of the trails that are currently in existence be used for that, or, you know, let's think about some of that stuff, that was a priority, but, yeah. Just stepping back tangentially related to this, one of the things that ECTA has been doing as part of our regional, service to the community is trying to, initially we had the concept of developing a regional trails app, but then realized that if you go to a place and you're asked to download an individual app for this region, like that doesn't get as much traction as recognizing there are some really great apps that are already out there, and just making sure that that trail information is up to date. And so one of the apps that we're working very closely with is Trailforks, which is great because you can filter by, I'm a horseback rider, click that button and it shows you what trails are recommended for horseback riders. I'm a hiker, I'm a trail runner, and it gives you those trails. And so one of the things ECTA has been doing, that we want to continue to do and try to throw some manpower at, is making sure all of our trails in the region are up to date, have good information, as well as current information of trail conditions and things like that, on Trailforks initially, and then if there's another one we can look at. But then, so as we get that fleshed out, then it'd be great if that could be something that promoted to the visitor center. It's like, oh, you want to know trail run here? Hey, we recommend Trailforks. It's a free app to use. There is a pro level. If you want to download, you can, but anybody can use it for free on their phone. And so, rather than reinventing the wheel, utilizing existing infrastructure in order to help get that information out there.
Are you utilizing QR codes at your kiosk or any other?
Yeah. So that's, we haven't yet, but we've talked about that, like what would be the best, and whether that QR code sends you to like the ECTA page that has, here's how to access different trail map resources, or sends it directly to Trailforks or something like that. How is that best thing? But I think that's definitely a good idea to have it.
Because I know that the resort is heading in that direction. They're planning on all of the new signage incorporating a QR code that will take the trail maps and different trail information.
Well, and it's great to be able to regionally all be consistent.
Yeah.
You know, everybody doing the same, you know, the maps look the same, everything's, you know, complements each other. I think that's huge.
Now, the resort's gonna come up with its own stuff. It's gonna be resort specific.
Sure,
That's great.
absolutely.
But if the way that we can coordinate with the resort and to incorporate some of the same information, yes, some very specific resort information, but also some ECTA specific information for the region. I think that, you know, yeah, that's, I wish, like I said, I wish Patrick was here, because this is all it is. If it's possible to coordinate that.
I think,
Well, and Jackie, you
yeah,
know, well,
this is the kind of stuff, you know, we may not get to it, we have issues, opportunities. that kind of stuff we're talking about right now can be further enhanced on our issues paper, so we can update this when we're talking about, as we get to it. We need to shift, we still have, 30 minutes, and I know there's a couple more topics, but the biggest one, the second item on our agenda, and it segues very well, is the Frank Young Trail. So, Frank Young Trail starts at the North Angel Fire Road, right next to basically the fire station behind us here. Crush refined pathway that's railroad tied lined, and Gopher Hole lined and Prairie Dog Hole lined pathway that dead ends near a easement for the CS Ranch that bring their cattle down here. It's a load off the highway here. Trail dead ended, but there is a bridge that crosses Cienega Creek, and then there's a mode pathway that leads back to North Angel Fire Road. However, both those trails that lead back on the road's built up, so there are stairs and railing that you have to climb to get back up the main road. So in some sense, neither trail has any fathom of accessibility. There are ways to sideline the stairs to come in to get to the Frank Young Trail. The Frank Young Trail is now adjacent to the Cienega Creek wetlands. And we are now working with the Cimarron Watershed Alliance, and they just put in 8 beaver dam analogs on the creek to start backing up the water to try to build the wetlands back up to at grade versus being inside creek.
And it's already changed.
It's changing and backing up water like it's supposed to do it. The south side of North Angel Fire Road where the big pond is a resort property. They have plans for that. I think maybe eventually to dredge that and bring it back into a better condition as well. Sediment issues and bad road management maintenance are big factors in that. However, the trail is going to be eventually adjacent to what's called Liberty Square or Plaza del Sol, which has been this plan for 15, 20 plus years, that they're going to have this community center, event space, government complex right behind this building with a solar panel. So the Frank Young Trail is a gateway to coming into this event center. It's going to be a gateway to get to Marina Valley High School. It's a charter high school in town. And it's a gateway to Allen Fields, which are the sports complex. Phase 1's completed. It's AstroTurf soccer, softball field. And a mulch parking lot. They love mulch in this village. We have so damn much of it. But right now is a separate contract to put in some amenities that including some lighting and perhaps a concession stand and some bathroom facilities at the field. Eventually, the one soccer complex, the half circle, will be mirrored on the other side. So we are proposing, and this has been a priority, right? It's a #1 priority in the 2018 plan. We did a mini kind of trails priority questionnaire or quick flip chart exercise at the, remember last year, Frank Young still came out on top as expanding this trail. So we're looking at a 1.25 mile extension of the trail from its current terminus to connect to the high school, and then the high school direct connection to Allen Field, which is the high school athletic complex.
But no direct access.
But no, yeah.
High school.
Right.
So they typically grow it across country. So we're proposing this trail. The village is almost prepared to submit a Trails Plus grants currently for engineering and design. Shay, I put a lot of questions out to you in that email, I think, to you, but we're looking at questions that remain unanswered are Corps of Engineers permitting, since we are going to be building a bridge across the wetlands, and costs associated with that, permitting associated with that, cost for materials. It would be a natural surface, crushed refined surface, but it would be a bathtub construction method where you'd actually would excavate and lay it, put your layers in, so you would not have, you'd have sheet flow across the trail into the wetlands. The current trail serves as a dam. It doesn't let water cross it into the wetlands, and it's elevated with the dam railroad ties. I don't think we changed that, we just continued better. It's gonna follow a sewer line easement all the way. We've had it surveyed. We know exactly where it's gonna go. We know the property owners it's gonna cross. I believe we've secured support letters from all the property owners. Not positive, I believe we secured that. I don't think we need to have the easements in place yet for the engineering design thing we would for the construction grant. The village has some funds available within its existing budget this year to put towards design engineering, so I think they want to pursue a grant to get the design engineering done with their in-house engineering consultant, which I have reservations about as well, but that's not my place, I don't think. The second phase, though, is construction. I think we've talked about having some in-kind from Public Works and doing the excavation work and maybe using the material they pull out to berm it up at Yellow Pines Road to get it to grade. And then potentially utilize a summer work crew, local kids, through Rocky Mountain and otherwise to start the construction and build it. So if this grant is pursued, I know Shea does not have the capacity to manage this construction project, nor does the Public Works Department. So I don't see it happening unless we have a outside cooperation trail consultant to help coordinate this. I actually see how, utilizing Rocky Mountain Youth Corps to provide as a supervisor. And then we go after a YCC grant locally to hire summer kids to do work. And so we have summer employment here as well to keep the kids busy. So that is, I think, a big ask would be maybe, I don't think it'd be this summer. I don't think we can pull off the engineering and be ready this summer for construction, but pull all those pieces together. I don't know if timing worked with YCC and everyone else and that. So this piece is huge because it would be a showcase pathway that would be for all ages. If you've seen the grant proposal that the one that Rocky shared is not the one I spent 7 hours working on. But I'm proposing that Frank Young Trail also have discovery play areas along it. So it's a linear park. So if you're at a music event at the Liberty Square, then the kids could be playing on the boulder structure or the tunnel structure or the loose parts play area nearby along this trail, this linear piece. So it kind of would be a feature linear park and trail plus access out to these two really important community destinations.
And this connects the next dot so that from there, you could go to the RV park, next,
That would be,
and
that would be
then,
phase 2 or phase
Yeah.
3.
right,
Yeah.
so it's
I
getting,
think it's also important to point out that the survey we did of the high school students, 100% of them would use that trail to access. The 50% of them would use that trail to access town from the high school.
Right.
So that's critical
It's
information.
safe route to school,
Yes.
opportunities there, once people know it exists and it's done. So it's pretty important. We're close to, we don't believe we need to have to go back to council to ask, to review the grant application. However, I think, Shay, I think there's still people unclear that we're after, an all access trail, all ability trail, not an ADA trail. The manager was totally unaware. I think he was still thinking we were gonna have a mode trail. And it's like, well, why would we need engineering for a mode trail? But, I think there's some clarity needed on what we're proposing, and I did put out a fact sheet. Shared it with some folks. I don't know if that's been shared further. About what we're proposing and what the Frank Young Trail could offer the community. So from your perspective, for Acta's perspective is, what's that contract would look like to help, probably help even write the second part of the grant if we need be, and coordinating with Rocky Mountain Youth Corps or helping us with the YCC grants, those things. Shay, am I on track there?
Yes, exactly. That's, I agree with all of that. And, definitely, I think, some help with writing some of the grants, because I know there's a lot more grants out there also. Because we had talked about this trail being, a transportation from A to B type trail. And, I've had Greg Ralph and Julie share, in Department of Transportation information where there are grants available for a trail like this also. So any sort of help with more grant writing and grant finding, I think, is going to be necessary.
Yeah, so we're proposing, the surface to be, it's gonna be a multi-layer for me. For me, it's a first bathtub excavation, 8 foot wide, 6 inches deep, put in some wire mesh, whether it's stucco lathe or something to keep the damn roads from coming through it. Potentially use cold millings as your base course packed, then some geotex fabric, and then crusher fine on top to make it really stable. I know it's expensive. People are gonna try to cheap out and just throw it on the crusher fine right away, but we're gonna deal with heavy maintenance issues, and Jay gets a portion of 2 laborers' time to maintain what she has now, so.
Exactly, yeah. And I don't want to do just let's hurry up and get a trail done so it looks like it's done, so we shows that we did something. Like you said, it always ends up being a huge maintenance issue. So I'd like it, what we've all been talking about to be a little bit, a little bit more developed. And then, I'm also looking into possibly hiring the youth corps or somebody, to help maintain it. Cause like you said, we have, well, now 3 people, but they're also maintenance for the entire village.
We ought to build this as the premier trail in Angel Fire, the one best village trail, all access.
Yeah.
All access and people will want to use it, particularly if we have the trail elements and other pieces to this trail, really make it more of a park.
Yeah,
A linear park than just a trail. It ought to be the premier walking trail.
So that would actually be very easy to be eligible as a national recreation trail, designated a national recreation trail. So that, once we have these elements in there, it's got destination, it's got the discovery play area, it connects, it's a gateway to these places, it's connects to this Frontier Plaza thing, or I'm sorry, the Liberty Square.
They changed the name.
Yeah. So
It was originally Liberty.
Yeah.
It came full circle, I guess.
So I guess we're pursuing the engineering design grant. The whole committee's, we have consensus that we definitely need engineering design because of the wetlands issue, and we don't know what the costs are gonna be yet for construction.
And that's the current grant, is the engineering. design.
Yeah, that's the first tier 1 phase. We're going up to a tier 1 phase. I'm not sure. We need everything that is proposed. Depends on how much the in-house engineering company wants to pursue that. But I think we want to ask them what we want before they tell us. So hopefully that's under conversation now. So the second phase then is, if we get tier 1, we need to come on board with you, potentially as a contract, to help us with getting that second part done.
Yeah, and it's, this would definitely be interesting to see if some of the federal money that's available would be available for the construction through like the RTP program, Recreational Trails Program through the Department of Transportation. And then there's a couple of other DOT grants. I'll be curious to see if those are still around in
Right.
2-3 years. But, this project, I think would fit really well with that. I would be, just I know there's a lot to think about and talk about, and I think the engineering will also determine this, but it might be a heavy lift to ask like a YCC crew or, you know, volunteers to construct, given the level of construction you're talking. So it might be better just to think about contracting with a trail construction firm that has some mini excavators and things like that to do it right and get that stuff out there. But yeah, that's the sort of thing that if there are resources that can provide project management services, things like that, in order to help move that along, help look for that funding, we definitely be interested in helping to explore those and pursue that. Because, as I said, that's the Questard River Trail is kind of what we're doing right now with that project. And so we've got some lessons learned along the ways through that. So, you know, it's that feel pretty, pretty comfortable applying some of those tactics to this. Have you talked about environmental assessment? Because that's, if you are using federal funds, you will need to do some form of EA or EIS. So that's another significant cost that probably need to.
I'm wondering if a lot of that was done with the sewer too.
They were 5 years old, it wouldn't matter.
It would,
No.
it's already too late.
It's pretty much, they looked at this 5-year trigger is kind of the thing for, I know for RTP, I know for land and water, it's like a 5-year trigger.
Yeah.
The fact that it's on an existing sewer easement may help and maybe faster for a firm to do that since we have older information.
Yeah.
But the fact it is in a significant wetlands area is a piece of that puzzle.
Yeah, if it is an existing easement, you might be a CADX would be a little easier.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the wetlands you might need to be thinking about.
Yeah, but do we know what, did anybody do the environmental surveys or anything like that before putting in that sewer line here or there?
Sure they had.
They use federal funds, they had to. They use local funds, no. So the EEA stuff is only triggered if you're using the federal funds.
Yeah.
So if you think, you know best and don't wanna use federal funds, and people do that all the time.
Yeah.
We don't wanna find a spike nose fart bat out in the woods. And then build a project. So I think as a community that cares about the natural environment and the wetlands are a key piece of while we're here, we ought to think about compliance.
And that might be something, I don't know how far along the Trails Plus grant is, but putting that into this current phase, the engineering, and also at least some initial surveys for a categorical exclusion. Finding no significant impact, could be worth just
a no.
yeah, otherwise you're gonna do the engineering and then before you can do construction, you're probably gonna have to do that anyway. So that's one more step in delay of construction, just thinking about moving this process forward.
Did we include any of that information?
No, Shay, are you following that? Shay?
Sorry, yes, I am.
Okay, so, in addition to the, engineering costs and the wetlands and the permitting, let's pursue some environmental assessment, what's necessary, and if they can even do some basic stuff. How long that would be, and that kicks it back up to where you're at with $100,000 probably.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that stuff we coordinate with you, right? So,
I mean, we've been working with different subcontractors, so, you know, it's the kind of thing that we wouldn't have capacity in-house, but we do have connections with folks that, yeah.
So what would probably happen if Dennis Engineering gets the contract, because they're your in-house consultant, they would sub that out to somebody else.
Right.
Whether it's SWCA or another environmental consulting firm in the state.
And you have some of that information that
Yeah, like I said, we're doing
the right
that.
direction to go with that.
Right now, we're coordinating our EA on the Questard River Trail with, SE Group, which is another environmental consulting firm, and that's actually that trail's, Dennis Engineering is doing their engineering on that trail, so that's, helps kind of meet expectations, like, know what, you
Are
know.
they the on-call firm, Red River too, or Questo?
Yeah, Red River. Yeah, so it's, So I think it sounds like a great project and definitely love to explore some ideas. I don't know how we can work with that.
So just so I'm aware, because I've been stuck writing notes, so we were trying, is this something, because originally you had asked, when we first had the meeting about like a $15,000 pledge to ECTA, and then we had brainstormed about like, what are these deliverables? Does this, so I'm on the same page as everybody, is this kind of what we're asking, like, if we give you the money, can you help us with these things? How far does that $15,000 go?
Yeah.
Is that?
That's a good question, and that's something that we want to be very clear and engaged with. I believe it's actually 12,000 is what we looked at for Angel Fire's contribution to contribute to active
Okay.
general operating. So what that would get is things like the underwriting for the kiosk. We could probably, the developing the map and stuff like that, we absorb those costs. Of course, construction materials would be included in that because that would be special project costs. And so then coordinating a project for this trail, that would be going above and beyond the kind of general contribution to ACTA. So there would probably in one of these grants be a project management cost that we put one of ACTA's staff members on, focusing on that as one of their main priorities and main tasks in order to keep that project moving forward. The general, trail maintenance, trail mapping, things like that would be included in that kind of annual agreement. And so, yeah, I think when you start talking about specific projects that are multifaceted, requiring a little more attention, and that we can't commit to absorbing that under the general engagement agreement. But we, grant writing and things like that in order to get these things moving forward, that would be included. And so that's,
So project management services for like the trail would be a separate contract.
Right.
Ideas like the kiosk sign, facilitating a half-day workshop. Mike could, by the way,
Yes.
fall into $12,000
Yes,
annual agreement.
exactly, yeah, because that would fall into the general. And I can give you an example of the contracts we have with the other, other municipalities showing the things that fall within that scope, and then the other, what doesn't fall in the other duties as assigned section of that.
And
Is
just
there-
the grant writing piece of it alone is well worth the $12,000.
Well, and if you're contracting, is there any issues with, let's say, y'all assisted with the grant, but yet we paid you money out of the grant funds to do some contracting and consulting?
Depending on the grant that you're going after, there may be certain restrictions on, this has to go to bid to get three proposals. Some grants, depending on the cost, you can use a sole source. So federal grants, if it's under a certain amount, then you can just go sole source, and that's what we've done with, Red River, with the Western River Trail. So, yeah, it's most of what we would be looking at would not require going out to bid because it's a sufficiently small amount for that contract.
Well, to keep that in mind, what that would look like, project management. So once we get this grant first piece figured out, we can pursue that. Grant writing, the second piece, and then project management roles for you. Does that make, that's.
It does, no, it does make sense, and I think it definitely helps kind of separate what is and is not expected. It's always good to be upfront about that, because you never want to get into a contract and be like, why aren't you doing what you said? It's like, I never said I was gonna do this. Yeah, and so no, that's super helpful, and kind of gives me an idea of, yeah, and just to, it really helps solidify kind of what's going on, because there's a lot of value, because I think this conversation has really shown that a lot of this might just be out of the scope of what we can do as a village with our limited resources. This is a volunteer committee. Shay is a one-person crew. She only has 2 people part-time to help with maintenance. The park, like our public works are busy, facilitating things like making sure the water works and the roads are getting better. So having outside help, I think, is starting to become more of a necessity than a luxury at this point, at least the way that I look at it.
I agree.
So then one thing, Shay, one of our tasks then is gonna be to once you pull the stuff together for us, is us, making a pitch through Councilor Weeks to the village manager and the mayor and to the rest of the council on why this would be an important, allocation of funds to keep this program going.
Cause even the
Mhm.
grant writing alone, like Lonnie was saying, so grant writing would be, like, help with that would be included in it, but then project management would be an additional fee.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. I mean, the grant writing alone is invaluable because, yeah, I know that we do have grant writers on staff, but they're also going after grants for things like water and roads and other things, and just having, yeah.
Well, and actually, Julie does the grant writing, but she's only doing it for the public work. I mean, yeah, the whole public works now. They've kind of soloed her off there. Rocky is doing it for other places. However, he's also the full-time clerk now. And,
Yeah, they're split
yeah,
into
so-
ways.
Right.
and then
that's the good-
also for project, oversight of the project, I think that's also a big part of it that would be necessary also, just based on a lot of the projects that I'm dealing with now. We need an outside source to oversee them because I've just had some issues lately with not having an outside source oversee it. And so I think that's a really big part that we need to pitch also.
It's good to know your strengths, good to know your weaknesses.
And that's, back to the
Yeah, right.
the idea, was that, for ECTA as an organization is like, instead of each town having to reinvent the wheel, okay, how are we gonna make this project work? It's like, hey, we're doing this at a regional level. We can provide that assistance. We can provide some of that, going after the grants, helping to get things pointed in the right direction. And then if we have additional things that would be helpful, then we can help find those, or whether it's us doing it in-house or finding a subcontractor to help in managing that and making that happen. So, yeah, that's a big part of why we're here and what we want to see happen. So, yeah, it's there's a lot of really great ideas around in not just Angel Fire, over this whole area, and a lot of folks understand we want to see this happen, want to see this happen, and we agree. We're like, are we gonna push these forward? Let's actually get some shovels and dirt and make things happen. And an example of that, just a little side note, we just built a trailhead for the horse thief trails out of Arroyo Hondo. And
Cool trail.
again, there's some motivation by the community, but it involved the BLM, involved the Forest Service, involved the Mountain Bike Association, involved Taos County. And I kind of describe ECTA as being the spider in the center of the web, just kind of pulling all those pieces together and keeping everybody focused and moving through, and managed to get that built. So yeah, it's kind of working in that capacity.
Okay, so we're at time, quickly on the grant shade. So the version that Rocky shared through the Google system is not the one that I shared with you and the committee last Tuesday. Can you make sure that he updates the correct one or shares the correct version?
Yeah, I'll reach out to him. I know he's, dealing with a family emergency. I will definitely look at it. And I glanced at it. I hadn't a chance to look at it. I actually have been dealing with something also. And but yes, I'll definitely be looking at it and be in touch with Rocky, and I'll keep you guys all posted. I'll be looking at it better now.
All right, and then so, hang on a second. So also, the one part that was left untouched was the economic development. I suggested that you visit with Greg and Owen Curry on those questions. They could probably fill those up better than I could on what you guys already know.
Okay.
And everything else is pretty much I try to keep it the word count. So if you haven't looked at the version I sent, that's the one you should be.
Which version is it?
It's got AP edits at. It's got the one I put out last Tuesday to the group.
Okay, so it's the one last Tuesday.
I addressed the email to Shay directly and to the group, because Rocky had not put his version out yet after we'd asked. So it's got AP edits after the Trails Plus grant. That's the one that is pretty complete, I think.
Yeah, that's the one I glanced at, and I did see your email, and I apologize for not responding. I was out of town dealing with a situation, so I will be looking at it better now.
Okay, so the ask we have for the committee on the issues, opportunities and challenges. So we have just basic bullet points. What we could use on that is a little time on maybe putting some more context in some of those statements. If it's unclear, let's try to clarify it. For example, e-bike policy, we know that there's an informal policy that the resort allows e-bikes, but it's not formalized, nor is it stated here and there. And then you've got conflicting signs out that say no motorized on the Greenbelt Trail. So how does that fit in? So we need those kind of clarifications in this as we develop our documents. And if you start thinking about goals, go back to the 2006 plan and look at the goals in that plan. Chris shared that with us earlier. And if they're relevant and how these issues might fit under those goals.
Do you need us, to task for the, letters from the resort and stuff for this grant? And you need like letters of recommendations?
We did need letters of recommendation, so I thank you. We could have a letter of recommendation from APO supporting the Frank Young Trail. ECTA could support Frank Young Trail.
That's what I was gonna offer. I know one of the things they look for specifically on the Trails Plus grant is how does it, maybe the question there is, how does this trail tie in with a broader regional vision for trails? And so I'm not gonna say our letter's gonna make or break that, but it definitely won't hurt.
It helps, for sure. I have a question specific for you, Attila. When we met last week about where we're gonna put it, are we shifting it all onto village land, or are we still gonna cross Kathy Moon and Plains Electric in that easement? Because I do have contact for Plains Electric, if I need to reach out to them and try to get a letter or get some, or provide a letter of them.
Of support.
Yeah,
And I can get the moons.
okay,
I think we keep it on the alignment if we can.
okay, and if they give us trouble, then we
We
worry
can push
about
it off just a little
Okay.
bit, west or east, right? Just,
It would be, yeah, to the east.
yeah.
Do we have like a blanket letter that I could provide to them? Saying like, cause I know that we were talking about, the recreational statute that limits liability, that type of stuff, so that when I reach out to them, I can at least provide them with some of that groundwork, cause I assume that they're gonna have the same questions as any other landowner would.
That's gonna be the next topic.
That's the one I wrote. I wrote a version for you for CS Rants, right?
Right.
So that might be what you wanna.
That should be included with the letters,
Okay,
don't you think?
Yeah, so I did put the statute in that letter, but
Yeah.
the language I gave you, you might wanna share with.
do you mind doing that?
Yes.
So thank you, sir.
And then, yeah, and then we still need the finalization on the letters, of course. Right?
Yeah, it should come from the village, not from this committee.
That's what I can tell. I mean, if you proofed them, if we proofed them and approved what we have, I can submit those to the village and they can submit them to the
To
attorney.
legal counsel, then legal counsel could get them to, and then we can circulate them.
Yeah.
Okay, I
So I'm
gotcha.
just waiting on the green light to get those to the village.
Okay,
For
good,
for
okay.
that.
Okay.
So
So
Jeff,
what I
you're
will-
doing the CS Ranch Road and the resort, correct? And then Matt's gonna do the other property, because there were 3 properties, right?
Yeah, there's Plains Electric, there's Kathy Moon. I can talk to Kathy if you wanna talk to Kathy, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I was gonna talk to CS Ranch and Kathy.
Okay, then I can spearhead Plains Electric.
And then,
Lord,
as
okay.
far as resort goes, I think we'll hand that over to Patrick, right?
Yeah, I think,
Do you want something from APO? I have to.
Well, the letters from APO for the grant.
Just supporting the trail extension, so you're saying that
Yeah.
this is good for the community and for our membership, it's a base, basically that.
Yeah, letter of recommendation. I was gonna reach out to some of the other people that Attila had recommended. That would be good also, but if you wanna do that, Jackie, then that's one less person I'll reach out to.
And grant reviewers hate seeing canned responses. I can tell you right now, if everyone on them all says the exact same verbiage, that turned me off. I 0-pointed most of those. And I did Trails Plus grant review in the past. So make it your letter, it's your passion, it's your interest from your organization that why this is important is what you want to say. Don't can it.
Yeah, I mean, you can still get general ideas,
You can, right.
but the verbiage would be clearly original.
I think we can do that through, was it AI or something, can change each one, right?
Yeah.
The nasty version, the friendly version.
Yeah, gradually, a nice quick little plug in.
All right, so I'm gonna propose that we not meet till the new year, okay? But I'm also gonna propose that we continue some of these tasks, so if you got an hour in the morning over coffee to look at the issues list. Shay, I'm gonna if it's okay, we put you back on point person, or you or Counselor Weeks on the grant application and what you want from us. If you need more review, or people have a chance to review the AB edit version, just take a quick look, and I'd send comments directly to Shay at this point. I'm not sure if we'll get it from Rocky in time for us, because we've only got 2 days or a couple days. Oh,
But we don't have to resubmit to council, so, we have more time before it's actually due. The final grant, so, but yeah, if you guys wanna submit to me, and then when it get the letters and everything, and it appears that it's put together, you can send it out, and everybody can take a look at it, and then hopefully submit it by what is it, the 30th or 31st?
Do we want input on the grant?
I don't think we need it for the engineering version as much. Unless you wanna do a quick look at it.
Yeah, take a look just to see what you guys are thinking about, but.
Okay, so
We're only going for the 100,000 on this one. What you were talking about with the regional, we're hoping to go for that with like the construction, the next phase of the grant. And then the letter of recommendation would be great, that you were talking about for that one, which is due March 30th. And I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Is it Lauren?
Lauren, yes.
Lauren, okay, yes,
but I think, him looking at, since they're using Dennis Engineering right now for the Red River Trail. And they're familiar with some of the scope of work that the, SE consultant is doing for environmental. It might be good to get some scope of work language from Lauren for our grant for Dennis Engineering, because if we just tell them we want to engineer and design the trail, that could come up way expensive, because they're gonna take advantage of being the on-call contractor, or we could be specific on, here's what you need to deliver us for us, and tell us what it's gonna cost. So I think Lauren might have a good perspective on working with a couple of these firms already on a similar project in some ways. So if it's okay, I think he'd be an okay source to take a quick look and just work with you directly. You can keep us out of it, just use him as a consultant, if you will.
yeah, no, I mean, I'd take any help I can get, so.
Yeah, no, happy to for sure.
Okay, so wrapping up, actions are, you're gonna send the CS Ranch language I kind of crafted for you to Matt, so you can look at it for other letters. Lauren's gonna start working up, the kind of cost associated, some of our ideas and how it fits in with a $12,000 contract, plus, others as necessary. What else do we have on there? We are gonna look at the issues, opportunities, and challenges report, add some more stuff to it. For example, I thought about the new housing development, workforce housing ought to have its own open space, playground, dog park.
Right.
Every one of them, because you want to develop a community. So if you gotta sacrifice one house for a little barbecue area, it's probably good for that community. So I want to add that recommendation here as an issue and opportunity. So if you have other ideas, let's build on that one paper. And at this point, share it as a Word document, or is it just a PDF? I'll send it as a Word document as well. And just edit and send it back to me if you want to with your edits on it, and I'll try to compile it and speed faster than working through the villages next month.
I think one of the elements we may have to consider too with the easement, and the approval, we would have to revisit that approval for those stop points for the recreation activities for the kids in that easement. That would have to be addressed either separately or within this proposal, but I think it may be something, that just,
I think it'd be on the existing Frank Young, that's where I wanna see.
well, it would be, I mean, there's room for it, but the liabilities and so forth.
Oh, right, okay.
Extend. Does that make sense? Okay.
Did we ever get definitive information on how wide that easement?
50 foot.
60, isn't it?
60, okay,
Oh,
so
okay.
there's plenty of room
Yeah.
to put the,
Yeah,
yeah, to.
and the
move it.
meander,
Yeah, well, to meander, to not run over the top of those.
Manhole covers?
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly.
Person hole covers?
Well, meander, but
Yeah,
surround.
so it can meander, and there's plenty of room to put the stations, PlayStation.
How correct of
Yeah.
you.
So progressive.
It's just the PlayStations may create a little more liability, so we want to take that into consideration.
They may, but the same, I think the recreation use statute plays in the same, because if they're gonna be responsible for it, they're gonna assume safety, and, but we could add that to it. All right, so any proposals for a date in January?
Probably, let's see, what is?
I can go back to Thursdays if that's preferable.
Yes, it is.
Jackie, how's that work with yours though?
The second and fourth,
Cause we have
Thursday.
conflicts with Jackie.
yeah, if you guys kept it on the first and third.
That's, okay.
Thursday is what it was, wasn't it?
So you said the second and fourth are yours?
Yeah, that's when we have.
So,
our-
so if we did that, our next meeting would either be the second,
Which would not be a good day.
No, yeah.
or then that puts us to either, so that'd either be the 16th, or if we moved it to Wednesdays, it'd be the 8th.
I think Thursday the 16th,
Thursdays.
9 AM.
Next meeting for January 16. Let's do the
8th and the 15th, I have a conflict, so. And have a. Stay on.
Okay. So this works?
Thursday.
Wonderful, wonderful.
I think we need to do every other, and when there's that. Cause there,
Yeah.
when there isn't a fifth, when there, when, yeah, when there is a fifth, when it-
We'll see, we may be at a point where we can start doing monthlies. Instead of every 2 weeks, depending on how things are moving along, and if we pick up the, so we need an extra meeting, but we may,
at least through the remainder of the winter,
yeah,
and then go back to bi-monthly, come like springtime.
okay. Let's have that as a topic, next, any topics for next time, any? Continue, we gotta continue our goals and issues, I think, right?
Yeah, goals and issues for comp plans. What's the next items?
National Trails Day could be a topic, if we're gonna plan something for that next summer. This is June, first Saturday in June, if we wanna start thinking about an event. National Trails Day could be a topic to start playing with.
So actually, there's a trails work day during
Okay.
that day every year. And sometimes we do multiple locations depending on the number of interests or things like that, but be happy to, if there's something Angel Fire focus you guys want to look at, would be happy to roll in.
Okay.
Sure, we can find something to put somebody to work on.
We need to do something, whether it's just let's get everybody out and hike, or let's get some work done. And whatever it is, we need to do something that we advertise in the community.
So do we want to put you on an agenda item for the next council meeting?
I'd say not yet. I think we should maybe come back at the third. Can you, by late January, can you get us back some proposals and costs and things like that for us?
Cause then we could review.
Yeah, then we'll ready to count all of that, okay?
What do we do? Do we need to get on the council agenda to get, if we as a committee agree that we need to fork up the 12 grand?
Yes, I mean,
Does that
it's
need
just
to be-
12,000, so I mean, it doesn't have to get council approval, but. We'll wrap up that.
You put us 30 seconds behind.
Now we need at least 5 more minutes to
Yeah.
wrap up. 30 seconds.
That could cost us 12 grand, and we need to do it.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, I mean, you know,
I think,
anything over 60,000 has to come to the council for approval, but this falls under, so, I mean, it may not.
It may not need to go. Usually it's up to Brett. He'll just tell me if he wants it to go to council or not, but I mean, it doesn't have to, but if he decides he'd like council to see it, then that would be what would have to happen. Yeah.
let's make a strong argument either way that we need their services, so if they get back to us with what we can, I think we have a stronger case.
Well, and the benefit, I think, of bringing it to council is being able to bring to council what we're doing as far
Yes.
as what ECTA provides for what we're doing.
Transparency is always
More so
nice in
than-
public
More
funds.
so than just approval.
Right.
So one other thing I wanna throw out there for long range planning, one of the things that ECTA provides at a regional level, be part of this is our Trailmaster training is on May 17th and 18th. It's a 2-day course. Free for anybody to participate, but just letting you know that it'd be great to get, folks involved with that so that you have
It's
skill.
not exactly free, it costs you some labor.
Does cost you labor.
Oh, yeah.
Some sweat.
So I think we're gonna adjourn the meeting, because I understand there's another meeting that's gonna follow here sometime.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.